Look outline. Number one, perfect through the Luke Gospel, chapter 1, verse 1 to verse 4. Number two, the coming of the Savior, chapter 1, verse 1, verse 5 to chapter 2, verse 52. A announcement of John's coming birth, chapter 1, verse 5 to 25. Chapter B, announcement of Jesus coming birth, chapter 1, verse 26 to 56. C, verse of John of the Baptist, chapter 1, verse 57 to 80. D, birth of Jesus, chapter 2, verse 1 to 20. E, Jesus at the temple as an infant, chapter 2, verse 21 to 39. F, Jesus' visit to the temple as a boy, chapter 2, verse 40 to 52. Number 3, preparations for the Savior ministry, chapter 3, verse 1 to chapter 4, verse 13. A, preachings of John the Baptist, chapter 3, verse 1 to 20. B, baptism of Jesus, chapter 3, verse 21 to 22. C, January of Jesus, chapter 3, verse 23 to 38. D, temptations of Jesus, chapter 4, verse 1 to 13. Number 4, ministry in Galilee, chapter 4, verse 14 to chapter 9, verse 15. A, Jesus' ministry and rejections at Nazareth, chapter 4, verse 14 to 30. B, Capernaum, Jesus' divine authority manifested, chapter 4, verse 31 to 44. C, marvelous catch of fish, chapter 5, verse 1 to 11. D, healing the man with leprosy, chapter 5, verse 12 to 16. E, Jesus' authority is challenged, chapter 5, verse 17 to 26. Number F, the Savior of sinner, chapter 5, verse 27 to 32. G, generations of new order, chapter 5, verse 33 to chapter 6, verse 49. Number H, demonstrations of divine power, chapter 7, verse 1 to chapter 8, verse 56. Number I, Jesus give power to his disciples, chapter 9, verse 1 to 7. J, Herod and John the Baptist, chapter 9, verse 8 to 9. K, fitting of the 5,000, chapter 9, verse 10 to 17. L, Peter confessions and Jesus response, chapter 9, verse 18 to 27. M, the Savior glories revealed, chapter 9, verse 28 to 52. Number 5, ministry during the final journey toward Jerusalem, chapter 9, verse 51 to chapter 19, verse 28. A, the Savior missions of redemption, chapter 9, verse 51 to chapter 10, verse 37. B, Jesus' special instructions on serving and prayer, chapter 10, verse 38 to chapter 11, verse 13. C, Jesus warning to both enemies and followers, chapter 11, verse 14 to chapter 14, verse 35. D, parables about the lost and found, chapter 15, verse 1 to 32. E, Christ coming to his followers, chapter 16, verse 1 to chapter 17, verse 10. F, in gratitude of 9 men with leprosy who was healed. Chapter 17, verse 11 to 19. G. Suddenness of Christ's return predicted. Chapter 17, verse 20 to chapter 18, verse 14. H. The Savior, a little children and rich allure. Chapter 9, 18, verse 15 to 30. I. Toward the end of the journey. Chapter 18, verse 31 to chapter 19, verse 28. 6. Number 6. Patience way. Version way. Chapter 19, verse 29 to chapter 23, verse 56. A. Jesus enter Jerusalem. Chapter 19, verse 29 to 48. B. Jesus teach daily in the temple. Chapter 20, verse 1 to 20, chapter 21, verse 4. C. Jesus foretell the destructions of the temple and his return. Chapter 21, verse 5 to 38. D. Final preparations and the last supper. Chapter 22, verse 1 to 38. E. Gethsemane and the betrayal. Chapter 22, verse 39 to 53. F. The Jew train. Chapter 22, verse 54 to 71. G. The Roman tribe. Chapter 23, verse 1 to 25. H. The crucifixion. Chapter 23, verse 26 to 49. I. The burial. Chapter 23, verse 50 to 56. Number 7. Restoration to ascension. Chapter 24, verse 1 to 53. A. The resurrection's morning. Chapter 24, verse 1 to 12. B. The risen Lord's appearance. Chapter 24, verse 13 to 43. C. The farewell instruction. Chapter 24, verse 44 to 53. Author Luke themed Jesus, the divine human savior, that at the 60 to 63.